Hi, I'm Mike Ryan. You know, green turquoise is, for many turquoise lovers, their favorite turquoise. And we know turquoise comes in a range of colors from pale blue, which was the favored turquoise during the period of Turquoise in America Part 1, the Great American Turquoise Rush, 1890 to 1910, to darker blues full of a variety of different matrix. And then we get into polychrome combinations of blues and greens, greenish blues, and then finally to the deep greens and the pale lime greens that really we're going to focus on today in this video on Green Turquoise Part 2. But I encourage you to revisit the first video on green turquoise for a lot of background information. So, as I said, we're going to kind of focus a little bit on the different grades, and this is admittedly my preference for green, because for me, I find what is known as the Crescent Valley green from Nevada to really be the most beautiful. And that is really a misnomer, because when we say Crescent Valley green, we're really talking at the highest grades about Caraco Lake Valley green. And that green is found in the very northern part of Caraco Lake Valley, right where it blends and becomes part of Crescent Valley. And the most famous mine showing green there is the Aurora, which again, you can read that history in Turquoise in America Part 2. And the Aurora has always been, or has long been, marketed as Caraco Lake. Right across the valley at the base of Red Mountain, we have Northern Lights, which has a very beautiful Caraco Lake green turquoise, but also shows a really nice blue as well. If we go directly north of the Aurora claims and more towards Crescent Valley, we find Grasshopper. Now, Grasshopper is a marketing name. I don't mention the claim name because I promised the mine owner I wouldn't, and I try to keep my promises. But Grasshopper has been mined. It was mined a lot a few years back, and a lot of it came on the market. We haven't seen so much recently, but we're going to take a look at that. So let's look at our first photo here, and we see on the top line, we see what I would consider some of the highest grades of the Caraco Lake turquoise. And I would grade this as very high grade to even gem grade, which is pretty rare to see for this green turquoise. And it has that beautiful lime green. You see elements of faustite in there, just really dramatically beautiful. And these are nice big cabochons too, which I think really showcase the color very well. If we go on to the second line, we're going to see again Caraco Lake turquoise, but I would regard this as not quite in the same grade. Still high grade turquoise, but not quite at the same level as we find in the first line. Finally, we'll go on the bottom line and we see Grasshopper. And again, I would consider this high grade turquoise, but you can see it doesn't have quite the brilliance, the lime green essence that you find at Caraco Lake in the highest grades. Surrounding all of these, we see some Northern Lights turquoise in this beautiful Danny Lopaki necklace. So, having looked at what I consider the best green, let's go down from Northern Nevada to Southern Nevada. And here we're going to see a comparison of Royston turquoise. In this photo, we see on the top line, we see Royston, and some of these calves may be familiar to you because they are the front and back cover of Turquoise in America Part 3. And yes, I know my photos aren't that good, but stick with the video because I've got some beautiful Arlen Ben photos coming up to make up for my not so beautiful photos. But you get an idea of how the greens shift to a polychrome as we get into the Royston district. And then below the Royston, we see King Manasseh. And King Manasseh is in Colorado, long associated with the King family. And again, primarily polychrome. Now, in the early days when Pete King was mining this, Bill King's father, they only wanted the blue turquoise. So a lot of the greens were kept in the dumps. And then when Bill opened this up in the, mostly in the 70s and 80s, opened it up to open pit mining, they started to find a lot of the green, which was becoming very popular. You can hear about that in our first video on the blog. So I promised you some beautiful Arlen Bend photos, and as I said, try to keep my promises. So we're going to start with the first one, which is a beautiful Caracol Lake necklace. And here we see this is what I'm wearing here. And this is a beautiful necklace that was made by Michael Grant. Very high grade, this lime green, delicious turquoise from Caracol Lake. The second photo we see is a Royston. We have two photos here, both of these really showing the photos from the cover of Turquoise in America, Part 3. And I think these were also included in the Turquoise gallery of Arlen's photos in Turquoise in America, Part 2. So I really encourage you to take a look at that magnificent photos. And it's really hard to capture the essence of turquoise. When Arlen did these photos for me for Turquoise in America Part 2, I said, Arlen, I want you to not show the outside of the turquoise, but also to show the inside of the turquoise. And I think he was successful in doing that. We see the next photo is of a Royston Montezuma. And I've described the Montezuma claim, which is one of the many claims on Quartzite Ridge at Royston. And here we see again, such a wonderful polychrome. You see that really magical transition from the blue to the green. So finally, we see a nice, beautiful photo of King Manasseh. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing some examples of different grades and different showings of green turquoise.